Overrated. Like, do they do anything
for having wrongly profiled
anything at all?
The FBI analyzed.
That's a genuine question, because like, take for example Nicholas Cruz, the school shooter. Apparently the FBI knew that it was going to happen. They had so much. The FBI flamed him with science. Oh, did I read that? Flamed him with science. Did you mean framed? What the fuck does that mean? FBI flamed him with science. Like, they just insulted him in, like, alt chat? Oh, it was framed?
Imagine the horror of being arrested in connection to a crime the entire world is reading about on the basis of irrefutable fingerprint evidence that you know you didn't commit.
I'd be
How
pissed.
do you defend yourself against a century of science and math that just aren't wrong? And how can
I just say they're wrong this time.
Up against the FBI and your own fingerprint expert says your fingerprints are a match.
The first arrest of an American in connection with the Madrid train bombings. What led the FBI to Portland, Oregon? Supporters of the man say agents are on the wrong track.
I've never heard of this.
They call it 11M. On March 11th, 2004, just 3 days before Spain's general elections, explosions ripped through trains in Madrid.
I didn't think there would be, Toss. I know this channel well.
Were killed and about 2,000 were injured. Europe hadn't experienced an attack on that scale in decades, and it came in the wake of 9/11 and at the peak of the global war on terror, a match to latent fingerprint 17. And in May, Brandon Mayfield, a U.S. Army veteran and family law attorney who frequently worked with low-income clients in Portland, Oregon, took the blame.
Fucking rough, Brandon.
5,403 miles away from a crime become its prime suspect. To understand what went wrong here, we need to go all the way back to Darwin. Throughout the 1800s, scientists advanced the notion that
this was all set up by Charles Darwin.
Human fingertips, toes, and palms were unique to each human, and they could be used as a proof of one's identity, like a built-in biological signature. Darwin was a bit too old to undertake a real analysis, so he passed it on to his cousin, Francis Galton, whose many accomplishments included identifying the statistical regression to the mean and inventing a physical board to demonstrate it that we now see on game shows. The science around identification flourished, and by the beginning of the 20th century, it had become one of the best ways to pinpoint criminals. A measurement of physical factors including head length, head breadth, length of middle finger, length of the left foot, eye color, and hair color.
That seems effective, to be honest.
Values for each, Bertillon claimed
Makes sense to me.
Person would have a unique combination of data. Except it wasn't all that unique, since so many physical attributes correlate with one another. Like, most tall people also have long arms. You don't find many 5'3" men with 7-foot wingspans. Fingerprints were much more accurate, and Bertillon developed a system of 16 identifiable markers that remained standard for over a century. Starting in 1924, the US government began compiling and cataloging fingerprints, and by 2004 they had about 200 million on file.
That's pretty good!
The scalar quantization algorithm was employed to compress the 500 pixel per inch images down to a file size of just 500 kilobytes, which meant easier storage, quicker access, and smoother online transfers globally. Like to Spain.
These fuckers have mine because my parents are narcs.
Since Francis Galton's forgotten warning that a complex pattern like fingerprints is capable of suggesting various readings, as the figuring on a wallpaper may suggest a variety of forms and faces to those who have such fancies. Even though the prints sent from Spain were low quality, an FBI examiner signed an affidavit stating that the FBI lab stands by their conclusion of a 100% positive identification.
Couldn't they just check if he ever left the country?
Up to his arrest, Brandon felt like he was being watched. Because he was literally being watched. FBI documents show that as soon as Brandon's fingerprints popped as a potential match, he was immediately under 24-hour FBI surveillance, including phone and digital monitoring. He also
usually
suspected
Tiana's. Hers is
at his home and in his office.
I don't remember what it is now. It's like an SUV
really
kind of thing.
Broken into. They were convinced Mayfield was involved. Here's a question. If fingerprints are so foolproof, why was an innocent man harassed by the government and detained for weeks as he wondered why they thought he was connected to a crime on another continent? British authorities actually knew Mayfield's print wasn't a match before the FBI detained him. They communicated a result of negativo after their own fingerprint experts found too few points matching in the prints. So what did the FBI do? The FBI flew to Madrid and told them they were wrong.
That's a power move.
They
went in person to say he was wrong.
11M,
I respect that.
He represented a man accused of involvement in a terror plot in Oregon. The more they looked into his life, the more circumstantial evidence they found that suggested Mayfield had the means and motive to play a role in the attack. And that's actually the punchline to a joke about a lying Texas sharpshooter.
Thanks
The joke's about a man
Grego.
who shoots at the side of a barn and then draws a target around a cluster of bullet holes to suggest he's actually a great shooter. When that's done with data, it's called the multiple comparisons problem. When we falsely perceive connections in our heads, it's apophenia. And when you're fitting evidence
This is
to a
so
predetermined
interesting.
conclusion, that has a name too. Psychologist Peter Wason coined the term
He's a tier 1
confirmation
copter in the
bias
prime straw.
to describe one's tendency to focus on evidence that supports their beliefs and to ignore or reject evidence that contradicts it. Basically, it's cherry-picking the truth, and it almost guarantees you'll find exactly what you're looking for, even if that isn't reality. So, what was the reality?
He actually did it. That'd be the plot twist. Everything that was wrong, they got everything
An
wrong,
FBI report years
except the fact
after
that he was the
incident
one.
admitted that Mayfield was actually one of 20 potential matches to the LF-17 fingerprint. Once they looked into Mayfield's life and found details that supported their suspicions, he became the prime suspect. Because he served in the military, he probably had the knowledge to be involved. And since he'd converted to Islam, he checked almost every box on the FBI's profile list. And when they searched Mayfield's house, evidence was seized from his residence, including what the FBI called Spanish documents. They turned out to be his son's Spanish homework. Okay, but why did Mayfield's own defense...
But what if the Spanish homework was about how to attack a train?
...were a match? They both claimed there was an unusual similarity between the two prints, with the Office of the Inspector General noting that they considered the coincidence to be, quote, extraordinarily rare. The FBI deliberately manipulated their conclusions by ignoring that the LF-17 print was only a slight match with Mayfield's, and then they focused on evidence that supported Mayfield's guilt and ignored the parts that didn't. It was hard to find a suspect given that there was no video evidence, hardly any photography, and primitive forensics at best. It would be generations before we could begin to collect and process things like...
Why don't we just ask him if he did it?
The FBI didn't have
rely on the
too
honor
much
code.
data. They actually had too much. They knew every little detail about Brandon Mayfield's life, from his browser history to what was in his garbage. The sheer volume of information made it easy for them to find exactly what they were looking for and only what they were looking for. Here's an example of how that data and knowledge gap quickly goes wrong. Swedish power lines. In 1992, Swedish researchers concluded a 25-year longitudinal study to determine whether living near high-voltage power lines made people sick. They studied the rates of over 800 different illnesses and found that childhood leukemia was 4 times more common near power lines. Their data wasn't wrong. The problem was, by measuring so many variables, they basically guaranteed that at least one of them would be a weird statistical outlier, and then they used it as proof of a cause and effect relationship.
That's always going to be the case now, though.
Visualize what this
everything does this. Literally every belief, every study, everything has that same effect.
Most of them will form a scattered pile right under where I dump them, but
quite literally everything.
That one or two of them are going to fly off my table, bounce on the carpet, and lodge themselves under a filing cabinet 10 feet away. Why? They're outliers. They had so much information about that suspect, all so easily available digitally, that they could find information that perfectly fit their profile. They dismissed the high volume of exculpatory data, like whether Brandon Mayfield was even in Europe before 11M. He wasn't. His passport had expired years ago, but the FBI claimed that meant Mayfield must have traveled under another identity. For them, the absence of proof was proof. Mayfield was detained for 2 weeks as a material
witness, you could never
not
lose.
Arrested as an actual suspect, since holding him as a material witness required far less evidence. The FBI kept collecting information they thought proved Mayfield's guilt, but everything came crashing down when Spanish authorities announced that they found the person who was actually involved in 11M. They matched the LF-17 print to those of an Algerian terrorist, and they were right. The FBI experts...
No, the FBI was right. They even flew there to say they were wrong.
Mayfield was released immediately, and then the questions began. As the American Civil Liberties Union and
I think the FBI is overrated. Like, do they do anything?
For having wrongly profiled
anything at all?
The FBI analyzed...
That's a genuine question. Because, like, take, for example, Nicholas Cruz, the school shooter. Apparently the FBI knew that it was going to happen. They had so much information, like, this guy is probably going to do this. It's most likely going to happen. They even had a general idea of when it might happen, and they still let it happen. And then also there was that gymnast. I forgot her name, but she, like, reported, like, an overwhelming amount of proof about some Olympic guy diddling people or whatever. I don't remember the story. And they didn't do anything. They didn't do a single fucking thing at all. Like, so do they do anything? Has there ever been a case where the FBI's actually done fucking anything? Larry Nazar. Was that the gymnast one? They shoot dogs. Do they? They have a reputation for shooting dogs? These are Prime Blue. They shot JFK. We're getting a little deep in the weeds of things now, I think. So far, almost no one has given me any case where the FBI had like a triumphant victory and stopped something bad from happening before it happened, or even did anything to solve a problem. They saved James Bond. Alright. Why are you asking Twitch chat? I don't know, I just feel like when it comes to law enforcement, like, they're usually very open when they do something good, right? Because they want it to be a good public relations moment. So you'll hear all the time about, like, some really uplifting stories of, like, officers and stuff helping out their community from time to time, or doing some good things. And I imagine it'd be the same with the FBI, but I never hear shit. Like, there's never been a time where there's a headline like, FBI just stopped Hitler version 2 from rising to power. Like, I haven't heard them do anything right, ever. But I guess there's a chance that they do everything behind closed doors. I guess. I don't know. All I ever hear is about how incompetent they are. So I have no fucking clue, to be honest. They stopped a school shooting in Brazil, did they? Well, here's a little something, it seems. They arrested a dozen people to hopefully stop something? I'll just take your word for it. I assume they have to do something right occasionally.
What went wrong internally. They laid part of the
that would have been the CIA because the FBI can't act outside U.S. borders.
Digital image of LF-17, but a panel of international fingerprint experts suggested that the FBI had far too much confidence in the Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System, which is the largest biometric database in the world, and let the pressure of a high-profile case determine how they viewed the evidence and what evidence they collected at all. Mayfield's case led to lawsuits about potential misuse and constitutionality of the Patriot Act, to $2 million judgment in his favor.
Hey, not bad.
A formal apology from the
2 weeks in jail for $2 mil? Kind of worth.
Mayfield went back to practicing law. Nearly 2 decades after Mayfield's unconscionable injustice, we have even more data and information about everything and about everyone. It's amazing.
The FBI caught the Unabomber, did they?
How quickly we can know it. Everything
I thought he was caught by a tip.
Records to finding a gem mint Charizard is way faster than it used to be, and usually more accurate. That's generally a good thing, but sometimes all that information is a problem.
Yeah, right. His brother turned him in. The FBI may have like apprehended him, but they never caught him. It was his fucking brother that turned him in. The FBI got handed a W. His brother could have turned him into the goddamn postman at that point.
We can make good data bad, and it's getting even more difficult to get it right. Mayfield's case highlights the complex relationship between the objectivity of science and math and the fallibility of the human mind. As we advance, we find more ways to be right, and that also means more ways to be wrong.
True.
The not quite 100% reliability of fingerprint analysis may have initially failed Brandon Mayfield.
I always felt like fingerprints weren't that reliable.
Of the
but they do seem pretty
are what landed
solid
in a jail cell.
Even with this fluke.
Sometimes the math and science are right. And as always, thanks for watching.
Nice. That's a story I'd never heard about before. That was an interesting one. The FBI tried to have sex with me. What are you talking about, man? I love Peter Popoff. Peter Popoff is one of the greatest con mans of our time. Well, I guess greatest is the wrong word. Most shameless. He sold actual sink water for a lot of money. Called it a miracle water tier. When the money's that easy. People love to get scammed. Jesus, well, he is fucking grooving. Peter Popoff taught him how to dance.
Everything you say in those letters is to the team from the Holy Ghost. You say, is that gonna happen?
Peter Popoff looks like the guy from the Wet Bandits in Home Alone. I forgot his name. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name.
I know God is real. I know what he can do. Every time I go to court, they throw it out. They deny it. So therefore they haven't been able
What is this? What is this text here?
hurting people.
A lot of people
Joe Pesci, thank you. Fuck, Jesus Christ. This isn't really Peter Popoff centric though. It's just kind of highlights of his church. Wow, this just says Peter Popoff YouTube, and it's 7 million views from Peter Popoff. He's killing it.
God's will for us has always been to be in health and to prosper. And he's using the miracle spring water to do just that.
There it is.
I sent for the miracle spring water, and I want to let you know
I actually had some of this.
$50,000 debt cancellation.
Someone sent me this in the P.O. box once. Changed my life.
Fibromyalgia, you name it, God delivered me from it.
Your free packet of miracle spring water.
Miracle spring water!
No obligation.
Whee! Let's go! Miracle spring water!
Now. I'll send you your miracle spring water absolutely free without any obligation. Your next...
Also, you'll notice he just stole the Super Smash Bros. Emblem. Oh, can you even see that on stream? Oh, yeah, you can. Which I respect. He's got good taste. Look at all the likes. Yeah, everyone loved it. I mean, you know, you won't find anything negative about it, I'll tell you that much. This was universally loved. How do people fall for that? Man, go on Twitter and you really have to ask yourself that question. Look at NFTs. NFTs are a modern day miracle spring water. But sometimes people make money off of them because of other people buying the miracle spring water. It's not a mystery why people fall for this shit. What are you talking about? People just like to believe in things. It's that simple. They choose to believe in things and refuse to hear anything that goes against it. My friend used to work for Popoff. Sending people holy water. He said it was really sad. Your friend had a dream job. Voice crack. Your friend had a dream job. You got to touch Peter Popoff's miracle spring water? Have you seen the video on Killdozer yet? I watched that years ago. I actually watched that like once every couple years at least. Marv Haymeyer, I think his name was. One of the most interesting rampages I think we've ever seen. Dude got fed up with the city council, So he grabbed his bulldozer, strapped concrete to it, and created an armored building-destroying vehicle and took it on a joyride. Fucking Marv. And then as he was... It actually got kind of whacked. God, people cover this all the time.
This is tape. This is when we first arrived on scene.
Yeah.
Officers standing on a hill above this earth mover turned tank were firing some pretty heavy arms at him, trying to find a weak spot, trying to find some way to immobilize. This man was now on the east side of Granby in what's called an independent propane company yard.
So it got really wacky.
Came out the other. This was these pictures.
Another guy got in some heavy construction equipment to battle him.
About 4 o'clock.
They had a little standoff.
About an hour into the rampage.
I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I recently rewatched it.
It didn't matter what police officers did with the rifles and such. And
no one died, right? Marv did. He killed himself. No one was even hurt besides Marv.
There was just no match for the cat there, the caterpillar turned tank. There was
yeah, so he just steamrolled buildings and cars. And then this is where it all went south. Flew a little too close to the sun. So what happened is when he was crashing through that building, the ground gave out under the killdozer. So I believe, if I remember correctly, one of the tracks went like through the basement. So then it just got completely stuck and broke down. And then Marv took his own life. It took authorities a couple hours to break through the bulletproof plating. As far as rampages go, you can't really do better than Marv. He fucking strapped plating onto a goddamn bulldozer in order to just destroy buildings because the city council made him mad. Fucking maniac. Look up, women are born, men are made, red pill. Jesus Christ, what the fuck is that title? Oh, what an insult to Samurai Jack to be used like this.
Talking about men and women and value, okay? Speak this PC bullshit. I'm gonna tell you the real.
You're telling me he filmed this in 2020 and posted it mid-2021? Was he just like anxious about it the whole time? Like, yeah, I really spoke my mind. And he had to like hype himself up. Like, all right, it's fucking time. I'm ready to post it. Let the world see. Sat on it for 6 months.
And I need to call the cops for some reason. There's, you know, somebody's attacking me or something. I'm hoping that the cop that shows up is a man, if I'm keeping it real. And I think we all feel the same way.
Okay.
Just nobody wants to say it. Nobody has the balls to say what I'm saying. Because
he's really going in.
PC mob, they come after you and they talk shit. I don't give a fuck. Money, status, and yes, to some extent.
Man, getting to this point has to be fucking miserable. Oh, fuck. I think it was a 5 gift subs lemon. Jesus. He tried his best to look like almost alpha, so even put on like a little gold chain too. This is rough. This poor guy's sad. He's not single. This man's slaying, no doubt. I mean, look at him. How could he not be?
You could learn jujitsu. You could go lift to get bigger.
Why haven't you done any of these things?
You can become a rapper. You can produce beats. You can do anything you fucking want to do. Women don't have to do shit.
Women don't have goals.
Like,
only men do.
Come out of the womb. Congrats. You have a pussy. You have automatic value. For a man, it's not that way. We gotta work for this shit. We have to earn our fucking way. Woman, you better be beautiful. Okay, that would be the #1 requirement. You know?
I mean, I think also magic would have something to do with it. I would think. I don't. Far be it from me to question this man's authority, though. This guy's clearly the expert. He's a tier 1 soup.